So continuing along with my series of RGL staff member interviews, here today I have Vibeisveryo. As you can see here, this is very professional medic gameplay, very professional doctoring. This was totally not Vibeisveryo. Totally did not drive a car into his wall. Here we got a Steam profile. We got some history. We got, let's see here, a bit of Terran, a bit of a StarCraft 2 player, okay. Is indeed a human. More comp history of the same. We common Google Hangouts. Medic Appreciation Group. Alright, I respect it. Got this... I don't know about this, though. You can see a guy named Bliztank in your friends list. Big cringe. Here you got some competitive experience.
Very questionable. I'll be sure to remove him from my friends ASAP.
Of course. But go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I am a person who does things. I don't know. Like I've just kind of been like around for a few seasons, and I. If anybody's unaware of like what I play, I play medic. I would say like at a high main level. I haven't actually played in a few seasons though, so that might be a bit inaccurate. And I am the RGL Highlander main moderator for this coming season as well as for the past season. And before that, and currently, I was a pug admin. I helped run pugs in the RGL Discord. So yeah, that's kind of just what I do.
Okay. And yeah, I got you on today. I wanted to talk to you about just like some of your RGL experiences and some of the initiatives you're kind of spearheading, like the experimental map pugs, for instance. Just wanted to talk to you about those, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and yeah, those are pretty much the general topics we'll be talking about. You're mostly an RGL era player, but it's always interesting just talking to and getting some perspective from staff members themselves, yeah. So, what brought you into RGL in the first place? I see you got second place in Amateur Season 6.
What brought me into RGL? Played... If you check my UGC profile, you'll see I played, like, Season 18 or 19.
Right.
Like, competitive TF2 is something that I've been interested in for a long time. Honestly, like, just the reason for the gap in which I didn't play, like, UGC or RGL is kind of simple and also kind of stupid. That those were the years I was in high school, the years I had to wake up at, like, 6:30 or 5:30 to catch the 6:30 bus and all of that, so, like, I couldn't be going to bed at, like, 11. Which now that I'm going to bed like regularly at like 2 sounds really stupid, but yeah, it's really just a product of stupid American high school timing. So
yeah, just like having more availability can kind of brought you back, yeah.
Exactly. COVID hitting meant that I didn't have to wake up as early, so I like a lot of people, COVID is what brought me back. So
right.
Thanks to COVID.
So how did you end up getting involved with like RGL as a staff member?
I mean I played a lot of RGL pugs, even like when I wasn't playing like on a team. I played RGL pugs, and so like I just kind of got into running RGL pugs because like I wanted, especially like during their lulls, I wanted to run them when there weren't pugs around. I kind of got more interested in doing Highlander things through like just seeing that there was a drought of new maps being made for Highlander, and like as people who have played a lot of RGL pugs know, like I have been doing a lot to spearhead the experimental map program in RGL pugs. And like I would scout out new maps and just run experimental pugs up to once a week to just play test those maps, and then like kind of when the opportunity presented itself to be on the Highlander staff team, both to kind of like enhance, both to kind of like leave my footprint on the rules, on procedures that are followed in RGL, just making sure like everything is internally consistent, and also just like being able to like continue my passion project of helping garner feedback for maps that are being developed for Highlander. That brought me onto RGL Highlander, like the Highlander admin team.
And what have you found your most like enjoyable position at RGL so far to be?
I don't think I can say there is one. Just like it's kind of like more the hats, like what hats you put on than like what the position is. Like
Right.
in both as a pug admin and as a Highlander admin, I've been able to like really like work with new maps, and that's something I really enjoy. That's like I would say that's the best answer I have.
Okay, yeah, just like being able to participate, be a part of something, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a least favorite part of working with RGL so far, like something that kind of grinds your gears, or like something that people do?
Um, I wouldn't say so. I think like uh, I genuinely like enjoy a lot of like what I do, and um, sometimes like I mean like we have a lot of like really hardworking people on our GL staff, and so like it really is genuinely like generally enjoyable to work with them. Um, but like when it comes to things that I don't enjoy, like I guess like there are things that like that have to be done that nobody like becomes Highlander staff to do those things, but they have to be done. Um, like the mundane stuff.
Right.
But even then, like a lot of day to day stuff isn't mundane. So like even just like making sure that the division I mod for is fair. It's well balanced. The restrictions are accurate, etc., etc. That is like still like I would not call that mundane.
That's fair. What are some of your favorite memories of being an admin slash staff member from RGL? RGL.
That you're really making me think, aren't you?
Yes, yes, I am. It's
um.
time for you to look inwards and begin asking yourself the big questions.
Okay. Okay. Um. Memories. I don't know. Just genuinely like chilling with other staff people in voice chats and like really working collaboratively, like in real time.
Right. Um,
Like just it like everything's more fun when you do it with other people, right? And because like with the way being RGL staff is, it's like a volunteer position. Like everybody's doing it out of goodwill. So like it's like you don't have to worry about like a lot of the stuff you have to do. Worry about like uh, in general in terms of like work politics kind of. And instead, like you can just kind of focus your creative energy into making sure that the product, for lack of a better term, is the best it can be.
right. Okay. Do you feel like you usually like are appreciated enough for like get the respect you deserve for the time and dedication you end up putting in?
I would say so.
Okay. It's good to hear. What's one thing you think RGL really needs to change?
I think RGL could definitely do with uh I think like one thing RGL like admins are like really dedicated people, but at the end of the day, like they are human beings, and I think that I think that like a lot of the stress in being an admin comes from not like stuff that like the head admins put on you, but like just stuff the community expects you to do. And I think that like RGL needs to do more to establish like to have staff establish boundaries. Like in terms of like in terms of like be like in terms of like staff will engage respectfully and professionally with the people with the community, and so like staff will also like expect like not like respect in the sense of like not respect in the sense of deference, but more so just respect in the sense of like how like a human being should act towards a human being, another human being. I think like that kind of boundary setting could be very good for staff's mental health. Because like ultimately, like I think that having to interact like over a computer screen when you're not talking to someone's face, like people do like unfortunately have the tendency to um be more blunt, be more brutally honest, and I think that that can be not always a good thing.
Okay.
I think also just in general like more um internal like organization, more internal like procedures, best practices, that sort of more like best practices training, professionalism training, all of that stuff could be like super useful. And again, like it's not just like me talking, like I would like to think that I'm putting my like effort where my mouth is, by trying to make these things a thing,
Right.
or more of a thing. But yeah, that's just generally like I think a very like positive direction I think we could head in the future.
And is that part of the reason of why you're kind of like taking the initiative and trying to start these community efforts, like the experimental map testing?
Oh no, I would not say so. I would say like that is like that is just more of a passion thing that I do because I want to see the change from Upward, Vigil, Swift, Product, Asheville, Cascade, or Lakeside,
Right.
Steel.
Okay. Do you have any
Uh,
maps that particularly like strike your interest at the moment? Like, what's the most promising map in development to you right now, from what you know?
um. Okay, so prefacing this by saying that like I think none of the maps that are currently in development are like perfect or anything. A lot of them
Of course.
have like a lot of them have like noticeable problems. Um, but like I think one map that like really like strikes my interest is like PL Eruption, just because like I've been working with the creator Billow, a fantastic guy, on and off for um bit over a year, honestly. And like both through the RGL Pug map testing programs and now like the Highlander map development program. And basically the guy's been like really receptive to feedback and also just a really dedicated mapper who wants his map to be the best it can be.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so like I think there's a lot of potential interruption. Again, like it was originally designed as a pub a payload map, but I think like a lot of maps start there and can end up like being great for Highlander.
And what is it like working with map makers like that, coordinating tests, getting people like review it together?
Um, it's still something that's like I don't have down to a science, but it's something that like I'd like to get better at as time goes on. It can be difficult to get 18 people in the same place at the same time to do Highlander tests, but if it's something that needs to be done, it needs to be done.
Okay. And I see that you're pretty active on the forums from time to time. Do you have any particular things that you'd like to talk about in regards to the forums?
Just in general or specific? Because like in general,
Either way.
Because in like if you have more questions about like specific stuff, I'm happy to follow up. But
Yeah. So
in general, like I would say that just I'm a pretty opinionated person when it comes to TF2 and stuff, and my opinions are not always correct, and so like I write essays defending why I think my version of things is correct, and if it's not, and like if somebody has a better essay than my essay, then I change my mind. But like just in general, like I place a high value on consistency and like things making sense in general. So like uh so just like when we like have things that are done for the sake of like maintaining how things have been done, uh or for no apparent reason at all, like I will be fast to challenge them on the forums. And again, like
yeah.
the whole point is that they're forums. Like people, like I welcome people to engage with what I say there, and so that's why I say, you know.
Yeah. I'm just sort of curious as to like, were there any sort of like particular admin interactions you had outside of the forums with other admins, like going along with your interactions with those admins on said forums? Like, for instance, your conversations with Wise
Um,
on the round robin thread, for instance.
yeah, I gave my personal opinion on that thread, but also like we worked together to the two of us worked together along with the rest of the Highlander admin team to like craft like a team response sort of, and I think that that's something that like um is something that I like value strongly. Just like as a Highlander admin, being able to figure this stuff out as a team, and so um we kind of did it. So um of course we like talked about this issue at length outside of
The forums.
the forums, but the forums are where I gave my opinion, and so
Okay. How do you feel about your fellow staff members? What was it like working with people like Wise, and Willmatic on all of these issues?
I think um I think there's definitely like a lot more nuance to a lot of these questions than people realize. Like even if like specifically going back to advanced round robin, even if like I am ultimately in favor of like advanced being round robin, I can see why a lot of people might not be, and so like ultimately like I think that it was up to the Highlander team to come up with a solution that worked both for like the perceived aims of like RGL to promote a like to promote competitiveness within the league, and also to ensure that community figures are satisfied. And I think like if anybody if anybody does like has any ideas for like what we could do, again, like uh, any other Highlander admin or I would be like more than willing to hear it.
Hmm. Okay. So how do you feel about the Highlander admin changes? Is that something
I
you feel comfortable talking about?
I think that Constantly is a very like talented person, and um someone who puts a lot of care into his work, and I am like very excited to be working with him, or working under him, with him, so on and so forth.
Okay.
To like keep making sure like that Highlander is as good as it can be. I've already seen like in the few weeks since constantly became like Highlander head admin, at least internally, like a ton of like I've already seen like the effort he puts in making sure that like everything is done in a way that like both is right and isn't like just like mistaken or fallacious or things like that, but
Right.
also like is done in a way that like people are comfortable with, and people are and like things are just done properly.
Okay. Um, and I'm not sure if this is really a question that you can like answer that much here, but do you think the blame towards Willmatic for Highlander was justified?
I think I think that like ultimately like a lot of it was just being put in a difficult position. Um, but like not necessarily like just by the community in general. But I think that like ultimately like people have different visions of how different visions of how like the things should be done, and I don't think that anybody is necessarily to blame for having a different vision from most everybody else. I think like especially like when it comes to what he did, like he had good reasons for doing what he did, and he did his job fine. So
Okay. So you'd say it's something with like a lot more nuance than most people would say?
I would say so. Like again, like of course I disagreed with him on a lot of things, but I disagree with everyone on a lot of
Right.
things. I don't think that's anything special.
So when are we fighting over our differences?
Now fight, fight,
Okay.
fight.
Typing up a forum essay
Actually,
furiously.
would you prefer this be done on the forums or an MGE? Actually, no. I would lose
Forums.
an
The
MGE.
forums are the future of MG. So, what was it like working under Willmatic? What was the team atmosphere like?
Um, again, like, I can only really speak to Maine, but like, uh, just the team atmosphere was always like kind of dictated by like how I worked with Spaz, the main admin, and like that was always like an enjoyable experience. Like the us being placed together on main like was definitely something that like I think was very good, because like we have very similar philosophies for how the division should be, and um yeah, I think like just being able to work like in a like division in a division specific setting with Spaz like really was um, super fun and conducive to doing good work last season.
Okay, so would you say Spaz is probably like one of your favorite staff members to work with?
I mean, I can't say without having worked with literally everybody else, but I mean, I definitely enjoyed working with them.
Okay, that's good to hear. Do you want to go ahead and move on to some Team Fortress 2 here while we play? I talk.
Sure, sure.
All right. Clever transition section. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely interesting to hear it from like the people kind of who are directly working, the people who are there for it, rather than just like outsiders looking into it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the biggest what's one RGL decision you really disagree with, or like that you've disagreed with in the past?
Mm, to keep running Prolander.
Oh, that's a spicy one.
I think that uh, as much as like I think that it's a decent format, I just think it doesn't have the interest to keep like being run or keep having resources being put towards. Same thing with NR6s really, but
Go ahead and join off me on Steam, by the way. Should be
sure thing.
Okay.
Dust Bowl, I question your taste.
I'm a man of many things. Culture is not one of them.
Hmm.
So, let's see. Did you ever play much Prolander? Like, what's your experience with it?
I ran Prolander pugs for the good part of a...
Right, but I mean, like, the full season.
I did play a full season. It was not very fun, but then again, my team was also, like, pretty impromptu, and I was playing Demo Man, so...
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the most fun experience. Okay. So we've talked about what RGL could do better, what RGL might need to do to change. What's something you think that, like, you, me, pretty much like any community members could do to help change things, to help make things better in the TF2 community, or at least in the competitive side of it?
I think, like, just kind of like, okay, obviously this is going to be a bit of a biased answer because, like, it's very much informed by, like, what I think are good ways of engaging in general for community members. But I would very much say that I'm kind of like, living my like ideal of how I would personally go about things in terms of just like picking a project that I think I am like passionate about and just like putting work in and like getting a plan, designing a product or designing like a process, etc., etc.
Okay. So then, what would you say for, like, the average community member? Like, how would they play into that?
Well, my project was and has been like like map design, but always more from a uh design perspective rather than from a always more from a like a competitive perspective rather than from a using hammer perspective. So like I think the way for is my call medic key not working? Oh my god. Are you serious? I'm just sitting here at 44 health, unable to call medic.
Sabotage.
While my medic dies right before they get to arrow me.
Highlander moment.
Oh,
sorry. As you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, I interrupted myself.
That's alright. Happens.
But yeah, so basically like just kind of what was that? Oh yeah. So like just like that kind of thing that like if people are passionate about then they can um be that change, and like a lot of people do that even like through running their own pug groups, through trying to like make those the best they can be. It's really just something that's down to the individual person to see, and ultimately like not everybody wants or should want to make like a change. It's TF2 is a game. It's like for people to play if they want to, if they like it or not. Like it like if you don't want to change things, then or if you like don't want to put your energy towards changing things, then don't. Just enjoy the game for what it is.
So just kind of to, like, be more grateful of, like, community projects and the game as a whole, the community of it, kind of, and then to explore your own passion and help the community out through that, kind of, is what you'd say?
I would sure appreciate. I would sure appreciate if people were like more people like looked more favorably on community projects, but I don't think that it's an absolute necessity. I just think like people should do what's most fun for them.
Okay. So your project, has it been something RGL supported you on much, or is it more so something you've just like taken the initiative on and mostly sorted out for yourself?
It's something I've very much like always tried to get RGL support on, and I'm happy to like see RGL supporting me more on it as of late.
That's good. Okay. Do you feel like you're getting adequate support for it?
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
I think like new maps is always a tough one, just in general. Just because of like the complicated logistics around, say, running a cup or things like that. But I think like whatever RGL could be doing, RGL is doing. So I'm grateful for that.
Alright. What are some other like community initiatives of the sort that you think RGL could do?
I think you mean like RGL could support?
Yeah, like the RGL staff members can either do, or that RGL as a whole can support. Yeah, probably more towards the latter.
Well, I mean, that's a tough one, mainly because like I've just like not spent like a ton of creative energy thinking about other things. I will say that like one thing just in general I've been trying to do as RGL staff is working on like both like copy editing, but also like making sure the rulebook is um like consistent with itself, and just like making sure that like procedures are followed faithfully, but also like in a way that's fair to players.
Okay.
I think that's kind of like getting distracted though from like the idea of like a community project, because like that's not really what that is. So like
That's still
to
interesting
answer,
to hear, regardless.
yeah. I mean, to answer your question, I don't know. Like I just think like having more ways, especially for newcomers to get involved, I think would be something that that like the community could benefit from more like league interaction and engagement on.
Okay. And do you feel like, besides your project, the RGL is like taking that initiative enough to like realize those sorts of community outreaches?
RGL's made up of people, and I think that a lot of people are like a lot of very hardworking staff members, a lot of very dedicated staff members are doing doing their best to like putting in a ton of effort to support these things. Ultimately, it's also a function of the time people have, right?
Right.
So like, because kind of like as I was saying to someone else earlier today, like kind of my ability to focus on these projects is kind of like a function of the ebb and flow of my own like personal commitments, like school, socially, etc., etc. Like I can generally be expected to be like less able to put in time when holy shit, that sentry just sent me to outer space.
Yes.
When like I got projects or midterms, just stuff like that coming up, it's just something that like a lot of people like RGL staff members are also like all pretty busy, and so like I would not necessarily fault anyone for not having the time to put into projects, you know?
Right. Okay. Uh, do you have experience with working with any sort of other like TF2 groups or communities or leagues besides RGL?
Not to speak of. Like, sure, like I've done a few things, but like not really outside the ecosystem of RGL
Right. Right.
meaningfully.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
hmm
Had that many like interactions with individuals from other regions with RGL?
With RGL, like as like in capacity as an RGL staff member.
Yeah, like as a staff member and with these various like community initiatives that you're trying to spearhead, like the maps one.
Well, I mean, some of the mappers are from different regions, if that counts, but I'm not sure if you
Yeah,
mean,
it does
like...
to an extent, but it's like, is it the sort of thing where like you'd be potentially reaching out to people from other regions in the future to help test these maps?
I don't... Time zone conflicts are a pretty big thing. Like, I just
For sure, for
might
sure.
not be available at times that are convenient to people from other regions. But, like, if there's interest, I'd be happy to, like, figure out with other people who might be interested,
Yeah,
what they
definitely.
could do.
Definitely say like there'd be some Australians that'd probably be interested. Yeah, I know, agree.
Because ultimately, maps are worldwide, right? Like,
Yeah.
we all learn from each other. Like, recently, Europe has also gotten to playing Vigil and Cascade, I think.
Yep.
And so, like, we all kind of just like we all benefit from initiative taken. It's sort of like how, like, in a way, like, initiative in terms of like getting new maps developed is like a pure public good, in the sense that, like, it benefits people from all regions, I think.
Definitely.
And so I think, like, having more cooperation, having people across regions be willing to put in effort for that could be huge.
Okay. Let me riddle you this then. Do you have you had to interact with like admins and community members and staff members from other regions before as an RGL admin?
Not really.
Okay. Do you think that's something that could potentially be beneficial to RGL, just like more sort of like integration and cooperation with other regions? Or is that just the sort of thing that they do kind of do, but that you personally aren't really in a capacity to do?
No, it is done to an extent. I think, like, I think more like standardization could always be like a better thing. Just more
Right.
cooperation between the leagues. But I think that's also a two-way street, right?
Right. No, for sure.
So,
Just curious on like your perspective towards RGL side of it, yeah.
yeah. I
Okay.
just realized that I'm kind of like focusing my energy on talking, and so, like, I'm kind of inting. My KD is 4-7 in a pub right
That's a
now.
skill issue, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Back to RGL pugs with you. So anyway.
Did you? Okay, the other day, and I'm pretty sure this log is just like straight up like not tracking correctly. But in an RGL pug the other day, I was playing medic, and the log said I healed the enemy spy like for 8%, and I'm pretty sure that's like straight up just not true.
Sounds like an excuse to me. I think you're an enemy gamer. You're working for TF2.
Yeah, fair.
I've figured it out.
Maybe my maps initiative is just to bring subpar maps into the NA pool so that Europe
Yes,
has a better pool.
you're gonna get coal plant in, and they're gonna switch coal plant on their end for Astral, and they will be better off.
So true.
Okay. How do you feel about CP Rapids?
Honestly, like, I've not given it as much attention as I should, but like I think it is, like, just in general, like, a very promising map. I don't know, like, I'm not like super good at like judging by feel for like steel likes especially, but high Bliztank.
But you definitely think it's like something that would have potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright.
Alright, extend that KD a little bit at a time.
What's your ratio right now?
7-7
Alright, so 1-1.
L plus ratio.
So, what are your opinions on other game modes, like CTF, 5CP, those sorts of things, and Highlander and Prolander?
CTF cannot work because it, like, because it forces teams to be simultaneously on attack and defense mode. In a way that even 5CP doesn't. For the same reason, I think payload race can't work. 5CP, I think, is not fundamentally broken, but like all of the maps are I think it would take some innovation in the game mode to make it work in Highlander. I think just the existing paradigm of uh just teams hmm, just uh 5 points in order might be kind of problematic. I think implementing some steel elements so that the offense can kind of outplay can out rotate the defense could make that a lot more interesting. Like for example, let's say there was a 5CP map where after capping mid there are 2 points, um uh, let's say A and B, and then that you must have capped both A and B to win, and you must and both capping either changes your spawn time or your forward spawn, etc., etc. Basically, instead of having a super linear second and last, instead just having them kind of cap either or. I mean, cap both, but in either order.
Okay.
That's just an example of the kind of thing that that could help make 5CP work. I don't think there's anything wrong with the game mode inherently. After all, it works in sixes. So holy air shot.
So, is are those would you be interested in sort of sponsoring the development of maps of those game modes and testing them out if you had the opportunity to?
The thing with that is just it's very difficult human capital wise. In terms of finding developers willing to do that, finding
Right.
people willing to test that. It's absolutely not something I'm opposed to, but it's something that I feel like at least more than just me would have to be on board for that to become a realistic thing to pursue.
You heard it here, RGL. Get the whole squad together. And then we'll have
true.
CTF once more.
No, not CTF.
Yes, CTF.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. We agree.
Mm-hmm.
Just the in-game chat. So, what do you think is the next step for RGL? Where do they go from here?
Further consolidating. It's further consolidating and just trying to make sure that trying to make sure that Highlander is a solid game mode with minimal flaws as it is right now, and then just trying to, I think, convergence between Highlander and Sixes is a very good goal to strive towards. Having a lot of things like ultimately it would be really nice to be able to have a Highlander LAN. That's something that hasn't been done, if that as far as I know ever, but
No
if I'm
Florida
wrong,
land.
then in a long time.
Hasn't been done in a while.
Yeah, it's but that's something that kind of needs to be taken baby steps towards.
You think we could see some more innovation and just sort of experimentation with Highlander kind of from this point on?
Absolutely. Bliztank, what class are you playing?
Pyro. Jetpack.
Okay.
The special.
I see.
Alright, honestly, that's about all the questions I had in mind off the top of my head. Do you have any you would want to ask and answer for yourself?
Not particularly. That's a good question. Why me? Why interview me?
I was just very interested to see what you'd have to say, given your forum posting history. I've been tracking you down for a long time, so on and so forth. But no, I don't know. You've just always kind of struck me as a very vocal and outgoing person with a lot of like opinions and interest in innovation.
Fair enough. And if you catch me on like an issue that I have like very like a specific issue that I have like very strong opinions on, I think like I'd have more to say than like just a more general like a look on like what RGL is like, what
I'll,
RGL could do.
I'll get back to
But
you on that in a second. The other part of it is just like I was very interested to see what sort of experiences you've had, and sort of just your thoughts and reasoning behind your whole map program.
mm-hmm.
It was kind of cool to just get some insight into that from the person behind it. What are some things you'd be very opinionated over then? Within reason, of course.
I think pineapple does not belong on pizza, and
I'm blocking you on Steam.
alright. Fair
But
enough.
how about like TF2 or like online related things? Anything in particular that kind of strikes your fancy or like grinds your gears that you'd want to talk about?
I hate this scout.
So scouts?
No!
Got opinions on that?
No!
You very opinionated against scouts?
No, sorry. I was just
I
having
know,
this
I'm just pulling
funny
your leg.
interaction.
Clown to clown communication.
Absolutely. But yeah, so like,
Mhm.
I don't know, like some things like, for example, just like, I don't know, I can get like really opinionated over like specific like little wording things. I just prefer things to be as clear as possible, you know, like.
Right. How about like divisions and division sizes? I believe that's something we had personally talked about before for a bit.
Um. Oh yes, yes, yes. I think.
Give me some of that.
Um. I think like just in general, divisions need to, like. I think like round robin obviously is made for like 8 team divisions in a 7 week season. I think Swiss like very heavily like depends on big divisions. I think like Swiss is like like the Swiss style competition is designed for having big divisions that um that like uh that like kind of like are because teams because like fundamentally in Swiss teams are placed against teams that they haven't played but that are similarly like ranked in match points, right? Um so then so then it makes sense that like when you've had a lot of teams that have already played each other, then you just end up in this kind of situation where like you don't really like reap the benefits of Swiss, and instead like you just kind of like are just matching at random, or like matching teams at random, which is why like a lot of like late not just early season but late season matches can end up being unbalanced as well. I think this solves itself when you have like super big divisions, and I think that having like the bigger divisions are, I think the stronger competition will be in like the league as a whole.
Okay.
So like I very much like if I had my way, like I think I would have like, and I've posted on the forums about this too. Like I would have this 8 team invite, and then IM, and then amateur, like 3 divisions, and then maybe a newcomer for like serving the same purpose it does right now for people who are like entirely new. But like otherwise, like 3 big divisions. Like I mean, one round robin division, two big divisions, and like all like super built to like super built to promote healthy competition within them, so that like the best really like rise to the top, etc., rather than just kind of like being a game of like who's played each other already.
Right. Okay. And would you say that's something that like you kind of liked from UGC? Just like the fewer divisions? Okay.
Well, not the fewer divisions. UGC really only started doing like fewer divisions when it was no longer sustainable to have more divisions. But like at that point, like UGC was past its prime. But even like when I played in Steel, there were like 50 teams. Like, even if there were other issues with balancing, such as like sandbagging teams, like there were hardly issues with like balancing because of the structure of the divisions.
Right, like we still have issues with sandbagging and RGL. Players teams throwing too.
Mm-hmm.
So you think it's something that maybe RGL could like do in the present, even though it's not necessarily demanded by player count, and then it would end up like giving a longer and more sustainable growth process for players going forward into the future?
I think so.
Okay, that's definitely a pretty interesting perspective to hear. I'd personally agree with that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Anything else that really grinds your gears as a topic? Or would that just really be the big one for you, TF2 wise?
I mean, that's one I'm very opinionated about, obviously. Like, I don't think there's anything like that I'm like super like nasty about.
Right.
But where am I getting shot from?
Good question. Okay.
But yeah, I think that's as much as I can think of.
That's about as much as I can think of besides just a few closing questions. I had one more,
Sure.
but I kind of forgot it, honestly.
You forgot.
So, do you have any people that you'd think would be like particularly interested to interview? Like
That's interesting.
Like maybe that's the mapmakers or so?
I think like theater techie could be one. Now that you bring up mapmakers, could be one that would be interesting to interview just because of their work and like making like I don't know, like just their kind of like work in making like Vigil and now Rapids.
Right.
Like definitely a different perspective from one people get a lot of the time, but
I want to say also, like, a lot of the time they don't really like get the credit they deserve for all the work they do, and it could be interesting to just sort of explore that topic with them, yeah?
Yeah, and kind of like also shine a spotlight, you know?
Okay. Do you have any people you'd want to, like, shout out? Staff, friends, anybody really in the community?
I feel like if I did, then I'd leave out others, so...
Honestly, that's a pretty fair answer. I respect. Okay, I believe that'll be about it then.
Cool. Alright, thanks for having me.
Of course, have a good one.